Hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching. This is me, Mr. P, and this is another episode in a Proxmox home server series. In this video, I will show you how to set up rclone inside LXC container on Proxmox, and then how to link rclone to a BACKBLAZE data center to back up your Proxmox backups offsite. So let's begin. For this example, I have a Proxmox setup running here. So I have two containers. One is called top secret LXC, important VM, self-hosted LXC. So two containers and one virtual machine, and they're getting backed up into a ZFS pool. So if I'll click on here, ZFS Proxmox, as you can see, there's a couple of the backups already showing up here. ZFS is just basically ZFS created inside the Proxmox. As you can see, I have ZFS running, I think it's 120 gigabytes each drive, if I'm not mistaken. And basically it's a mirror ZFS linked to a Proxmox, and it's been used to obviously store ISO, CT templates, etc., and obviously backups. So we're going to set up rclone to back up the Proxmox backups to a BACKBLAZE. So basically you need to follow the 3-2-1 rule when you're talking about the backups. You need to have 3 backups on 2 separate media, and 1 must be offsite. So 3 backups of some device, something. So in this case it's going to be VMs. I do have actually not that enough backups, but for this tutorial will be fine. Usually on my main Proxmox, I am keeping 5 previous days, so retention 5 days. So it's a 5 backups, and obviously one of them is being kept on another storage unit, and then obviously I'm going to BACKBLAZE. So I decided to create this video to show you how easy it is to set up and get this going. So let's start setting up. So like I said, 2 containers, 1 VM, 1 template, and they're getting backed up to ZFS. Let's start by creating ourselves LXC container. We're going to use a standard basic Ubuntu LXC container. I will start creating one, but if you don't have LXC container set up or template downloaded, I already done a video how to set up LXC template, LXC container templates, how to download the template for Ubuntu, how to basically clone, what is a cloning of a template, etc., etc. All this you'll find in the video, and the video link to that video will be in the description below the like button. And if I'll remember, I will put the card up here now to show up and basically take you to that video, and you will know everything you need to know about how to set up LXC containers and obviously download the templates, etc. So let's start creating one. Let's create the template, the LXC container for my rclone. I'm going to click on a create CT. It will pick the next number that is available, incrementing from 100. Actually, no, it's not passing 101. So it's 100, 101, and 102. So next will be 103. You can put whatever number you want here, as long as this number is free. So I'm going to use 103. Now I will give it a host name and the name to this container. In my case, it's going to be rclone-yt. This container needs to be privileged. That's why I'm not selecting unprivileged container. Next, let's create a password, something that you will remember to punch in. I'm just going to put something very easy for me to type. Under templates, this is the location where I store my container templates. So I'm going to use this, and I will use Ubuntu 2204. And under disks, location is local. Your location might be different depending where you're storing VM disks. In my case, for this example, it's going to be local. And 8 gigabytes is plenty for this VM. That's all is going to happen. We're going to mount point the ZFS pool to this container, sorry, not VM, to this container, and then we're going to sync straight to a BACKBLAZE. So this container will be almost like a middleman, just passing the data between the ZFS and BACKBLAZE and vice versa. So 8 gigabytes is plenty. For CPU, 1 core is enough, and memory 512 megabytes to run this container is plenty. But just for setup purpose, I would suggest to increase that to 1 gig. Just all the installation and everything will feel much snappier when you set up this at 1 gigabyte instead of using half a gigabyte of RAM. Network, I need to select DHCP for IPv4 because I want this container to receive IP address automatically from my DHCP server. I will do nothing about IPv6 because I don't use them. DNS domains, you can leave this as a host, or if you fancy, you can just enter the, for example, the Cloudflare. In my case, I'm just going to leave whatever host is using. Click next. I will not start this container after create, so I'm not going to select this. I'm going to click finish. So right now, Proxmox is creating this container for me. Let's wait for a second or two to get this done. Here we go. So here we go. 103 container has been created. That is great. Now we need to mount point ZFS pool, or more specifically one data set, to this container. If I'll click on my Proxmox node and select shell, and in here if I type, let me actually go this way, and if I type ZFS list, it gives me information about my ZFS pool and all the data sets. So first one is my ZFS pool named tank, and then I have data sets. One is data. I might store photos, documents, etc., etc. on here. And the next one, it says Proxmox. And the Proxmox, if I navigate to this data set, stores my backups, my snippets, and the templates, ISOs, and container templates. So most important one out of these 3 folders for me to backup is my backups inside the dump folder. I don't care about the snippets and templates, ISOs. Like if I'm gonna lose ISO, I can go and download Linux Mint ISO again. So it's not a big deal. But if I lose the backups, I'm screwed. If I need to restore my Proxmox from fresh, if a Proxmox, let's say my Proxmox computer dies tomorrow, I lost all the backups. I don't really care if I lose all the ISOs, because I can get them again with no problem at all. So we need to go and pass this folder. So if I'm going to go this folder, we need to pass this folder into my rclone-yt container. So I'm just going to copy this location, because I will not remember. If you remember, you just retype everything in. And now, while we are still inside Proxmox node, inside shell, we need to navigate to the location, which is, oh, actually edit the file, sorry. We're gonna start with nano, text editor nano, /etc/pve/lxc/ and then the ID number of the container we want to edit. In my case, it's 103. So I'm gonna type 103 dot, and if I press tab, it's autocompletes. So we're gonna edit 103 container configuration file. And this is what pretty much Proxmox needs to run this container. All the instructions what the Proxmox uses to start this container. So what we need to do, we'll go on the line with net, press enter, and above it we need to write mp0, so mountpoint 0. We start with the ID number 0, semicolon, slash, and it was tank Proxmox dump. So I remember the location. So this is the location on the host. So we want this actual location to be passed into the container with the location of mountpoint destination equals /mnt/ let's call this tank, for example. So it's going to be tank Proxmox dump. Actually, no, let's delete this. I'm going to write Proxmox backups. And that's what's going to happen. So it's going to mount point into this location. Once that's all done, Control X to close. It gives you a message saying save modifications, yes, and enter to confirm. And right now I can start the container by right click and right here, or I can go and write pct start 103 and press enter. And right now Proxmox initiates the 103 container to start. So while it's starting, I can quickly go into the resources and just validate that this is showing up here. And if I've done something wrong, as soon as your container starts, if this mount point command line is something you entered incorrectly, it's going to show straight away the errors within the first 2-3 seconds in the boot time. So right now it's asking me to log in. Default username is root, and the password is going to be that password that you entered here while you were creating container. So right now that's done. Let's double check if I definitely can see the Proxmox backups within this container. I will navigate to change directory to mount Proxmox backups, and if I list, I do see all these files here showing up. So this is all the backups and logs and everything for these 3 containers, 101, 102, and 100, 101, and 102. I'm not sure why they're not in order here. Anyway, so this is the location of all the files that basically is inside ZFS pool under dataset Proxmox backups, and that's what it is here. Let's double check if rclone installed. I get the message saying rclone is, you can find the code. Okay, so I need to update and upgrade first. Okay, so let's run upgrade and update. It's suggesting to run sudo, but because I'm logged in as root, I don't need to write sudo. I'm just going to write straight away apt update $& apt upgrade -y. I'm just daisy chaining 2 commands. And basically, in a nutshell, this command will only run if this command is successfully complete. So press enter, and right now Ubuntu, or basically all this is going to go and automatically download the new update the packages, download the new packages, And once right now download is going, once the download is finished, it's going to automatically extract everything and apply all the changes. So I'll leave this running. I'll be back when all the system is up to date. So I have everything up to date. So what we're going to use, we're going to use this program or this service called RCLONE. RCLONE is a command line program to manage files on the cloud storage. And you can connect a bunch of stuff to it. I will show you when we will come to the RCLONE configurations. There's a bunch of things you can link to RCLONE to get the things downloaded, uploaded, and synced in, etc. So let's double check if the RCLONE is installed. If I write RCLONE, it says RCLONE is not installed. We need to install one. So we're going to write apt install RCLONE, and it's going to install now. So that's it. We have RCLONE installed. Double check if it definitely RCLONE is installed. We can write RCLONE, press enter. If we get a bunch of text showing up, this is RCLONE help manual kind of thing. So you can see, oh, there is an RCLONE sync. That's the actually one we're going to use. Make source and destination identical, modifying destination only. So this is what we're actually going to use. But there's a lot of things. There's RCLONE ls to list the stuff, etc. So right now we have RCLONE setup done. Before we start RCLONE's configuration for the BACKBLAZE, we need to go and set up the BACKBLAZE first. Inside the BACKBLAZE, we need to create a bucket. To have a BACKBLAZE account is free of charge, so I'll leave a link in the description below for you to go and register. We're going to use B2 cloud storage. So right now, give me a second for me to log into this system. And here we are. I'm logged into my BACKBLAZE B2 cloud storage dashboard. If I click on a buckets, it should show me my Galaxy bucket. This is my main Galaxy bucket where I store my main Proxmox backups. As you can see at the moment, it's 333.2 gigabytes. Oh, that would be funny if that was free. So it would be 3.3. Anyway, so this is where I store my main Proxmox backups. So right now what we need to do, once you create an account and etc., we need to create a bucket. We're going to click create a bucket. We need to give a name to this bucket, and bucket name needs to be unique across entire BACKBLAZE system as far as I understand, because if I, for example, I'm going to write RCLONE, and if I'm going to say I want to create this bucket by clicking this icon, leaving everything by default. So I'm going to say, clicking this button, leaving everything by default. I'm going to click go. It gives me gives me an error message that is already new. So somebody probably somewhere already used this as a name. So let's go and use Mr. P RCLONE. Why not? Let's hope that there is only one Mr. P out there. So it's going to be Mr. P-RCLONE. Files in a bucket are private, so that's fine. Public email verification required. So I don't want them to be public. What that means that I can share the link, that people will use that link directly to my bucket to download that file. And I'm going to leave this private. Default encryption, I'm going to leave disabled. I don't really care to upgrade. I mean, I encrypt my Proxmox backups, etc. This is more for like a top security kind of things. And object locks is a security feature that can provide data immutability by restricting the file from being modified or deleted. So let's say you upload a file and it can be changed for a week and you can't delete for a week. I'm just going to say private, disable, and click the bucket, create the bucket. Bucket gets created. And this is my Mr. P-RCLONE bucket. And right now that's where my Proxmox backups will go. First, for me to actually use this bucket, I need to create what they're calling the programmer application key and the key ID. To do that, I need to click on application keys. I'll scroll past all my master stuff. And right now, here we go, your application key. Below is the key that I'm currently using for my main Proxmox. Make sure this data is secure and you not share online. So I'm going to blur all this out. Well, instead, what I'll do now is just going to click add the new application key. Click on that. Name of the key, I suggest to give a name for something that you'll remember 2-3 months later why you created this application key. In my case, I'm going to write RCLONE YouTube video. So I'll know that this is created because of a RCLONE YouTube video. Access to the buckets is give you a list of all the buckets you have. In my case, I have 2. Galaxy bucket, which is my main Galaxy Proxmox server by the name of Galaxy. I'm just going to choose Mr. P clone. And I'll give access to this key with the read and write permissions to this bucket. And everything else by default, I don't really care to change, to apply prefixes, etc. I'm just going to press create the key. And right now, it gives me the 2 ID numbers, 2 unique keys. Please keep them safe while you're setting this up. If I'll refresh this page or I will close this page, I'll come back to the same, I will close the browser and I'll come back to this page. These keys are gone. So what I'll do now, I'm just going to copy them from the screen, open the text editor, and I'm just going to plonk them inside there in case if I lose them. And right now, let's go back to a Proxmox. Here we go. We are back inside LXC container with the RCLONE stuff installed. Let's start setting up my RCLONE configuration to the remote. They're calling remotes, and remotes is basically each cloud destination. So let's write, for example, RCLONE list remotes. And it should say not found, list remotes. It gives me error because nothing is there. Okay, so we have no remotes at all. So let's start setting up RCLONE space config, enter. And straight away, it gives me the first question. Am I setting up a new remote? I want to set configuration password, or I want to quit configuration. I'm going to press N because this is the way N is. I'm going to say, no, I want to set up a new remote. Press enter. Name of this remote. So something simple. Let's say I'm going to put bucket, or actually what we're going to do, BACKBLAZE. BACKBLAZE. So I'm going to name it BACKBLAZE. Press enter. And this is a list of all the stuff I can link to. So I can link the RCLONE to one feature, Amazon Drive, BACKBLAZE B2. That's the one we're going to use, and ID number is 5. It can go to Box. It can go to Google Drive for photos. I actually do have RCLONE set up to Google Drive. Setting up RCLONE to Google Drive is a bit more steps than doing BACKBLAZE because you need to go into Google Cloud Console. You need to activate Google Drive API under your account. You need to create the credentials to this API, get the API authentication key, etc., etc., etc. And once you get that all done, you need a separate machine, preferably Linux, with a display where you will punch a specific code, which will generate another code, which you need to copy paste into here. So there's a lot of basically back and forward stuff, where BACKBLAZE is just 2 keys, copy paste, and job done. Let's go through the list. Microsoft OneDrive, mail.ru. We can go to put.io. You can go to OpenDrive, etc., etc. And somewhere I saw HTTP connectivity, and there is even a command where you can where you can pass the URL to RCLONE, which will then load. Let's say you have a URL to ISO file of Pop OS. You can pass that URL into RCLONE, and RCLONE will then load that for you. So the ID number that we're going for is 5. So let's click 5 here, press enter. And it says I need to enter account ID or application key. So let's go back to the browser. I still have that thing running here. So first is this one. So key ID is going to be my account ID. So right click, paste, enter. Enter the string of application key. Let's go back to the page, and this is application key. Right click, copy, go back here, paste, enter. And right now it says permanently delete files on remote removal, otherwise hide files. Enter the Boolean value, true or false, press enter, by default is false. And basically what that means that I'm setting up this connection between RCLONE and BACKBLAZE. If in the future I will delete this connection using RCLONE config, that what the system needs to do, it needs to go to BACKBLAZE and delete everything, or needs to go to BACKBLAZE and hide the files. So pick which one you want. In this case, I'm just going to say default, which is false, which means do not delete. And now it says, do you want to go and edit advanced config file and config stuff? I'm going to just pass that. I'm going to say no, press enter, as this it says default. And now it says, okay, so remote config, BACKBLAZE, this is your ID numbers. This is all correct? And if I press enter, it's going to pick default, which is yes. I'm going to say, yeah, it's correct. Enter. And that's it. And it says current remotes, BACKBLAZE B2, and what else I want to do with this config. I'm going to say Q for quit and press enter. And that's it. We're done with RCLONE config. To check if the remotes actually connected, I can write RCLONE list remotes, one word, and there you go, BACKBLAZE, and at the end is semicolon. Please make sure that you enter semicolons in commands that we're going to type, because I've done so many times where I forgot to enter semicolon, but this is important to enter, as sometimes the Linux and especially the container, for me personally, is not auto-completing when I press tab, so I'm forgetting to put the semicolons during the setup. But anyway, So what we're going to do now, we're going to go back inside the BACKBLAZE. We will go into our buckets. And right now I should see a bucket, Mr. P clone. I'm going to click upload and then load. And here we go. Here we go. We have this one here. So this is where the files will show up once rclone is happening. Let's go and move a file. So inside the root folder, let's navigate to a root home. So clean this. What we have here, we have nothing. So we're going to create a file, which is going to be subscribe.txt. And I need to put something in here. The BACKBLAZE or rclone will not send the empty files to a BACKBLAZE. So you can have a million files. If they're all 0 kilobytes, none of them will reach BACKBLAZE. Please click like. See that? So I right now have a file which is very, very small and it's called subscribe. So right now what we're going to do, we're going to try to send this file into the BACKBLAZE. We're going to say rclone sync. We're going to use sync command. Now we need to put the source. Source can be a folder or file. So in my case is going to be subscribe file, subscribe.txt file, space and destination. BACKBLAZE, press tab. This time is autocomplete, sometimes it doesn't. And now name of the bucket, in my case it was Mr. P. So when I punch Mr. P on MRP and press tab, give a second or two because it pings the BACKBLAZE and comes back and says, is that exist? MRP something? Yeah, exists, autocomplete. And I press enter and feels like nothing happened, but actually in the background it sent the file. So if I go back to browse, click on this, and right now in a matter of a couple of seconds, sometimes it actually takes up to 5 minutes or so, but right now we need to give a second or so for this to happen. So if I click on browse, at the moment as you can see it says 0 and this still showing my 333 gigabytes. So let's wait for this to show up here. So while this is happening, I can go back here, and right now it's basically sending, I do have option to send data back and forward. Let's say I sent the data to the BACKBLAZE and I have no option to check in the browser. I can check using a command line, rclone ls BACKBLAZE, name of your remote, in my case BACKBLAZE, and name of the bucket, in my case is Mr. P, Mr. P-rclone, and here we go. It's 18 bytes, subscribe.txt file. As you can see, browse is still not showing up because our BACKBLAZE sometimes in the background, especially on the website, does some things, checks, etc. So it's not going to show up straight away. But inside the, there you go, it's actually showing up here. It's not going to show up here because it's they're still indexing, etc. to show on the website. But I can confirm that file has already been sent because once I run this command, which is list all the content of this location, it says that there is a file already here. To delete a file from rclone, I need to write rclone delete BACKBLAZE, so name of the remote, Mr. P /subscribe. Press enter, and I send a command from this terminal, from this RCLONE container into BACKBLAZE bucket, saying, okay, I want to delete this. If I run command like this, it will wipe everything under Mr. P, so which ends up being a root folder, which is a bucket. So okay, it goes back and forward, everything is great. Now let's send a couple of Proxmox backups to my BACKBLAZE bucket. My Proxmox backups lives here, so it's under MNT Proxmox backups. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go and write a command, which is gonna be, let me make a bit more space. So rclone sync, and we're gonna say everything inside mount, Proxmox backups, space, BACKBLAZE, name of the remote, name of the bucket, Mr. P Cloud, dash dot, oh sorry, space dash capital P. Capital P is for more, is give you more information exactly what's happening. If I run like this without capital P, it's just gonna line, I can even show it to you. It's just gonna sit like this until it's done. So is it working? Is it not working? Etc. It's hard to judge. So I can run the same command with capital P at the end, press enter. And now what's gonna happen is gonna show me all this detail, exactly what's happening. So it's sending 5 gigabytes of data to my BACKBLAZE bucket. It says that ETA is around 12 minutes and it's going for it. BACKBLAZE allows you first 10 gigabytes to be free. So this 5 gigabytes is way below 10 gigabytes. So I'm uploading data. Well, technically I'm not uploading data for free anymore because I already have 300 or so gigabytes sitting in here, as you can see. So it's technically no longer free for me. But for you, if you're just a first-time user, it's going to be free for you to play around. Plus, BACKBLAZE only charges like $0.005 per gigabyte. So I for my Proxmox, I think I'm paying like $4.5, $4.50 for my full master Proxmox backups out, which is almost like 500 gigabytes. Anyway, so this is running. Great. So let's say you want this to be automated, and this is where we're going to use a cron. First, I want to show you a couple of things that we're going to put in a cron to explain to you why I chosen these kind of things. I'm going to go to Data Center and I'll click on Backups. So right now, Backups is set to run at 9 p.m. I'll change that to be at midnight. So let's change that to be midnight. So here we go. Come on. Okay, it's because zoom in, it's a bit, I can see the buttons to click. Okay, so the Proxmox backup runs at midnight. So please note that. So midnight, the Proxmox starts the backup, and depending on the amount of VMs and containers you have, it might take 10 minutes, it might take 50 minutes. So I suggest to monitor the backup log for a couple of times. So for example, if I click on this, I can see that it started at 9 p.m., which is actually at the time of recording. I'm recording right now is 3 minutes past 9. So it's literally just done the backups. So it started at 9 p.m. and finished running. When is the last date timestamp? So it's like done all this in a minute or two. Are you sure? Yeah, it's about a minute. It took a minute to back up all these 3 examples. In my main Proxmox, it takes about 45 minutes to complete everything. So in my case, let's say I started backup at midnight, it needs 1 hour to complete. So I want rclone to run a command automatically on cron, let's say at 1 a.m. or more safely at 2 a.m. So give 2 hours for Proxmox to do his thing and then do a sync and backups to the rclone, to the BACKBLAZE. So we're going to go to rclone. We're going to close this down. So it starts at the midnight and we need to go and sync it. But when you're keeping a retention of the backups, if I go back up here, back to a data center backups, select the backup, click edit, and then click retentions. Retentions right now is set to 2. If you set to 5, so obviously if you back up all your VMs and XC containers and that totals up to, let's say, 200 gigabytes. You multiply that by 5, you have a terabyte of stuff. But do you really want to send all retentions, all the revisions of that backup to BACKBLAZE? You probably want to send the most 2 recent or maybe most recent one. So that's what I'm going to show you how to get that set up, because pretty much that's how I do have on my main Proxmox. So if I go here, I will say, okay, so if I go click here on the Proxmox, I have 2 versions. I have a, let's say, here we go, I have a version from yesterday and I have one version from today. I don't want to sync the yesterday's version. The most recent one is fine by me. And the difference between them is 24 hours. So please note that. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say rclone, sync max age equals 24 hours. Not really. I'm going to do 4 hours. 4 hours, and I'll explain to you why I'm doing 4 hours, but I mentioned 24 hours. And I'm going to say what I'm syncing, mount Proxmox space BACKBLAZE Mr. P folder. Here we go. Does it all fit on a screen recorder? Yes, it does. So rclone will sync every file that is not older than 4 hours. If I'll run this command on cron at 2 a.m. and it counts back 4 hours, it's going to be 10 p.m. previous day, which is way within the range of when the Proxmox does the backups. So that means that all the backups that happened 4 hours prior running this command on cron will send the backups to the BACKBLAZE. So if you have 5 or 10 most recent backups for one single VM and you want to send most 2, let's say I want to send 2, only 2 of them. So if I go back here, I'm going to say, okay, instead of, I'm going to say 24 hours, so it makes back to a 2 a.m. previous day. If I'm going to add another, I'm going to say 24 hours, so that will cover the most two recent backups if I have 5 backups. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so let's say I want to back up only the last most recent one, which is done at 2 midnight, but then running this cron at 2 a.m., which will cover that. So if I'm going to go here, I'm going to at the end I'm going to put dash capital P just because of zoom in. It's sort of formatting it goes wonky. Press enter. So right now it's going and only backing up 2.3 gigabytes. But previously when I was running this, it was 5 gigabytes because it was covering everything. But right now it's covering just a half because I do 2 retentions, so that's what's happening. So right now it's running. So I'm going to close that. Control C to close. We'll bring back the same command. I will copy all that and say copy. And now I have this command for me to use. So now what we're going to do, we're going to run a command called cron tab space dash E, press enter. And then I want to choose, this says easiest nano, I'm going to press 1 and press enter. And this is the file where you instruct the cron to run a command or set of instructions depending on the time. Before you do that, I suggest to double check what time and date your system is set to, which in my case, to do that, you need to run a command. I do have a cheat sheet here, which is double check the time. Here we go, time, date, CTL. And right now, as you can see, it's set to UTC, and it says it's actually 8 p.m. But in UK right now is set to, supposed to be 9 p.m. So it's up to you. You can always deduct 1 hour when you're setting up chromes depending on your time zone. But I suggest to run the command, which is time. Let me quickly do this. Time, date, CTL, set time zone. Time zone, and in my case is Europe, London. And now if I run the command, right now it's set to Europe, London, and this time here is correct. As you can see, local time right now is 9 p.m. and UTC time is actually 8 p.m. So right now the cron will run properly. So let's clear all that and run cron tab space dash E. And if I go down at the end, one thing I like to quickly change here is a bit of the formatting. Let me quickly grab that down here. Here we go. So the way cron runs is you need to specify minutes, hours, day of the month, and day of the week. So 0 minutes, 2 a.m. In my case, it's going to be 0 minutes, 2 a.m. I'm doing this with these tabs because I like to space everything out so it more stands out. So in this case, it's going to be like, okay, so let's quickly do this. I'm going to say, here we go. So hours, I want to go here. Day of the month, I want to go here. And command, I want to go here. So it's going to run at 2 a.m. Day of the month, asterisk means doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And the week, it can be Mondays, Thursdays, Sundays, for example. I'm just going to say every day of every week of every month at 2 a.m. initiate the command, which is this. And it doesn't fit because of formatting. But if I zoom out a bit, let me try to squeeze something, all this in. I hope you can see this. So this is a command we're running. So rclone sync, maximum age 4 hours, etc., from where to where, and it's dash B. So right now is going to be almost 11. So if I'm going to do 11:21, and if I put date, as you can see, 20 seconds remaining. If I put htop, I don't have a htop running, but apt install, let's quickly install htop. If I quickly install htop, let's see. So what's the time now? Let's see if my cron starts. If a cron starts, htop will show you a bunch of lines showing up for the rclone. Here we go. As you can see, rclone usually does 5 consecutive upsyncs, so 5 syncs in one go. So as you can see, there's rclone showing up a bunch of times. And this is right now indication for me that rclone cron started is actually doing the thing. So rclone is running. If I do, what's that thing is called, sort by F6? I think is virt memory. Here we go. So it's rclone just taking over over services, and it's just going for it. If I click on a summary, as you can see right now, VM using 0.5 gigabyte of RAM and 1 CPU, but I said 512 megabytes of RAM will be fine because it might take a bit longer, but I'm gonna run this overnight, so, or just a second part of the night, so it's not a big deal if it's gonna take a bit of time. So that's running. Let's close that down. Let's clean it, let's delete all this. So right now I want to show you what if, let's say, your Proxmox died, crashed, etc. You need to get yourself back up and running. So you create yourself an LXC container. you set up your rclone, you create a new application key to the same bucket that you had before. And in my case, let's say I'm gonna go to location, which is where my subscribe txt is, and I want to send the file back from BACKBLAZE into here. First of all, I need to figure out which file I want to send. So rclone ls BACKBLAZE Mr. P auto and enter. So let's check what I have. So I have all these files showing up here, what is located. As you can see, there is no more subscribe.txt because sync sends the data to the bucket and then checks what the destination has that source doesn't have, and then deletes inside destination. So mirrors destination exactly how the source looks like. So if you delete the, let's say if I go to ZFS, which is hiding here, if I'm going to go here and I'll say delete this, on the next sync it will delete inside the bucket, inside the BACKBLAZE, if that file is still there. So go back here. So let's run the command again. I want to download, for example, this file. This is very important file. My Proxmox died or installed, and I can't do nothing until I get this file on my system. So I'm just going to copy this because I'm not going to remember everything what it says here. So right now, the root home folder has only subscribe. So how to get this going? Okay, so we're going to run rclone. So right now you can run sync, or you can run a command clone. Clone is just going to clone it, and that's it. It doesn't care if the source file has difference between destination. It just sends the data and no deletion, where rsync does the deletion. So in my case, I'm just going to run sync again because I'm just going to use one file. So sync, and now source will be actual BACKBLAZE. So it's going to be BACKBLAZE Mr. P, and now I'm just going to paste it in. Make sure that this exists. I can delete a couple of characters at the end, press tab and see if it's auto completes. As you can see, it's auto completed. I don't think that's all going to fit on the screen, so apologies for that. And now where to go, which is quite simple. It's just a root folder. Let's actually minimize a bit. So rclone sync this file or this source, it can be file, it can be folder, to this location, and I want to see that happening. Press enter. So if I now list the content of my root folder, list.l, here we go. This is a file I just pulled back from a BACKBLAZE, and I can carry on restoring my Proxmox stuff. So backups inside the BACKBLAZE. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you need to follow 3-2-1 rule with the backups. 3 backups on 2 separate media, one must be offsite. And this BACKBLAZE completes my 3-2-1 rule. I have 3 backups on 2 separate medias, and one of them is offsite, which is a BACKBLAZE. And I think that's it. There is by the way, if you go into our rclone page, which I leave a link in the description below, if I click on the commands, click on rclone, there's a bunch of commands you can run. A couple of them we already used, like for example, where is it? You go rclone sync, we use that. Rclone ls, which lists the objects. Rclone delete, which deletes. There's a bunch of commands like send the rclone command to a BACKBLAZE and delete every single folder that is empty. This is quite useful because you don't want to keep them going there, move it, etc. It's a bunch of stuff is happening there. And for BACKBLAZE, if I click on this, you should see a couple of folders showing up here. I don't know, I'm not sure why it's not showing up. It's probably still doing resyncing because, like I said, it's not always shows up here straight away. But it does says that I used almost 2 gigabytes of data, even it doesn't show here. But for me, if I write rclone ls BACKBLAZE and Mr. P bucket, I do have some stuff that lives inside the bucket, inside the BACKBLAZE. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quite lengthy video, been recording for 40 minutes. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.